when I head towards retirement and have more time to do that type of thing. So Gertrude Lottie McAllister was a young woman of 22 working as a labourer in one of the sheep stations in Jasper, and was shot in the back twice by Norman McBean, who was the son of the property owner. I'll talk a bit about how this story came to be of interest to me, but I'm using this story as the example of how Trove can lead you down interesting rabbit holes and how it's extremely useful. So a bit about myself. I live in Yass. People been to Yass? I assume everyone's been through it. Yass. It's a fabulous place to live. Took my young twins there when they were about 4, and we've been there for close on 20 years now. And Jasper is about 40 minutes windy road to the west of Yass towards Orange Up Dam. So my intent is to cover what is Trove. I assume if you're a historian you already know what Trove is, so I won't be showing you much new. Talk a bit about how I use it and how it's useful, and go through the use case, the story of Lottie McAllister and how Trove was useful. So a familiar search page for newspapers and gazettes. Very, very valuable is the fact that you actually get the image of the original document, along with the interpreted mostly by artificial intelligence text. But the thing I love about Trove is it's a community facility, so if you find that the text is wrong, it didn't scan properly, you can get in there and get an account and contribute by fixing up the text, which I've spent many hours doing. So a bit about the way I came to this story. So obviously I live in Yass. People know I write songs about Yass, and the Bounding School was having their the year right, the 175th anniversary in March of last year, and they asked me to write a song in August of the previous year, which I did, and went along and played the song at their event, which was great. But then the Jasper School heard that I wrote songs as well, so they contacted me. So as I normally do, I'll go into the Trove and hear what was happening in Jasper during the life of the school, and that's where I came across this particular story that I hadn't heard at all in the town of Yass during the time that I've been there, and went on to write the song about Lottie McAllister, but then of course realised it wasn't really appropriate to sing at a school event, so I didn't end up singing that song at the school at that And a brief, I guess, description of the power of Trove is that you can refine your search by phrases, by years, by regions, by publications, and it will spit out for you the list of you can search it to only be about articles. So if you think something happened somewhere, you can search for stories that relate to that. And the thing I find really fascinating about these newspapers is that events that happen somewhere like in Yass would turn up in the Hobart newspaper or the Brisbane newspaper. And you'll even get a bit of editorial take from people in those various regions about the incident that has happened. So these are some of the primary sources that I used in learning about what happened to Lottie McAllister. And for a previous song that I wrote probably 5 years ago, at that time the Yass Tribune hadn't been digitised, and I had some information, but some was missing, and the only way to find out was to go to the local library and ask for the microfiche roll, sit there with the machine and wind through pages trying to look for keywords, whereas here I just type in the keyword and the magic of the search tool will find the relevant pieces for you. And if you want tips on using Trove, hit me up on my email or otherwise. I'm happy to help out. Speaking to Rob earlier, we almost lost Trove
funding
not that long ago.
Funding was getting a bit weary. Kent knows more about it than I do.
And,
you know what I want to say.
And in terms of how valuable it is, so I do a lot of research in England and Ireland and my New Zealand family. Those countries don't have a Trove. If you try and find a paper in the UK, so that's $10 a month subscription. If you want to use an article, that's £70 to use it. So Trove is a fabulous tool that we have access to. So why do I use it? I'm a songwriter. I collect songs and I write songs. So of course, this is the song that I wrote about Gertrude. And for me, folklore is about telling people's stories, about people who lived before, telling stories from a perspective that maybe wasn't the one that everyone else had, or maybe one that wasn't listened to. So I'm interested in the history because it's a place to get songs from. So a bit about the timeline. So 16th of July, so again, back in 1914, you didn't have Instagram or mobile phone, so the time between when the murder happened, the coroner got on a early motor car and drove there with the police to when it ended up in the paper was about a week. But then the time from then to when that story got syndicated all around the country was only a couple of days later. So the first story was that Lottie had been shot. No indication of who had shot her or the circumstances, a few theories. The second article, a day later, note where that ended up being published, suggested that a note had been found, and the note said no one in the house is to blame for the murder, which is, if you follow detective shows, that's just a red flag to anyone. And at the moment, this is a stack of possible research points for me when I hopefully write the book in the next 5 years. This one really fascinated me, that Lottie had a presumed lover who was, I guess, told you can't marry her, left, but kept writing to her for 12 months from Sydney afterwards. So of course the police and everyone were looking at trying to find who was responsible. Again, this story ended up in the Adelaide Advertiser, so it obviously captured the nation back in 1914. I don't have any leads on what happened to this guy afterwards, or where he ended up, or his family. So then by the 24th, what had subsequently happened is Norman shot himself in the river, not far from the homestead where he shot Lottie, which made it clear that he'd been the murderer. Not clear if there was a pregnancy involved, and possibly that was the impetus for it. And so the inquest a week after divulged that he'd been responsible for the shooting, which pretty much closed the case. So I mentioned the fact that people editorialise. So in this fairly long 3-page essay on capital punishment from Queensland, the topic of hanging and its benefits and stopping people from committing murders is discussed in detail. Specifically because in between when Norman shot Lottie and when he was going to kill himself, he'd asked the police what the penalty for murder was, assuming making some weighing up in his head about what his options were, ultimately leading to him killing himself. So I did this research probably 12 months ago now. So this is a map from around 1901 that shows the family. So Wee Jasper was a very small, not many families lived in Wee Jasper back in 1914. So you can see at the top left the McAllister name in a few places. The property of the McBeans is further down on here. So this was not from Trove. I think it was from New South Wales Library, where they have the records of maps. I put a lesson here because I forgot where I got this from. So when I was putting the presentation together, this great map that I found, where's the reference?
Where's the source? What's the source?
I don't know where the source is, so I'm going to have to go and dig back through. So fascinating history of Wee Jasper as well. It was located on the path to the goldfields that were found there, so it had the possibility of becoming quite big. You can go there today and the population is almost as small as it was back in 1914. 1914. But it's possible with this detail to go, hey, this family was here. I can go and look in the papers of when they bought the land, possibly when the land was repossessed. Look for other families with the same last name. So for those introvert historians in the crowd, you eventually learn you can't stay at your computer for the whole time. You need to go and talk to actual humans as that may be. So I mentioned that this was triggered by doing a song for the Bounding School. This is the 125th anniversary of the Louis Jasper School, and those three girls on the left-hand side are the only students in the school. There are more teachers in the school than there are students. They sang songs, they put on a play, like a period history drama. They were fabulous. The school had got Simon Sewell, who's a painter, to paint the murals on their sheds in the water tank. And a fascinating story that they told at the anniversary event was that New South Wales government wanted to close the school, and so the poly got to Canberra, got in the car, and they drove for 2 hours, and then asked the driver, how long until we get there? The driver said, another hour or so. He's like, forget it, turn around, we'll just leave the school open, because if I can't get there, you can see why it needs to stay open. So another photo of the crowd. The current principal of the school, Michelle Andrews, while she was there, did the historical work of going back through all the roles of the history of the school, put the names. So I was delighted to find Gertrude's name in the roll from 1901, along with something like, I think, 5 or 6 brothers and sisters. And then you can see with the different parent, obviously the brother of Thomas McAllister also had a child at the school. So McAllister's pretty much made up 80% of the school when Gertrude was there. It's the records that would have gone into making that book that probably aren't on Trove, that you have to go into somewhere that's got the records of that particular school. If you're interested in historical buildings, the couple, so Kim, who's playing the guitar, and her husband Alan, they bought the police residence that burnt down back in the 2019 fires, I think, and they were on the Australian Preservation renovation show. They've renovated the police station and are looking to fix the pub that also burnt down in those fires. So we have a fabulous historical society in Yass. I've got to know many of them very well. So I took my sons up to the graveyard on a weekend, as you do as a normal dad. We went looking for Gertrude and could not find her or any of the relatives. So I wrote to the Historical Society, who very kindly got me the hand-drawn plot and told me where she should be. So that cross is one that I put up because she didn't have a marked grave. So her burial's in the paper, but she did not have a grave in the cemetery. And the other thing was someone had kicked over her father and mother's headstones in the cemetery. So that one you can't quite make out. So the reason we couldn't find it is because someone kicked it over and it was face down. But I found the 2 grave sites for her mother and father, and she's very next to it. That was not marked. So yeah, it is great to have an active historical society in your area to help with this type of thing. It's very difficult to do on your own. And a bit of a plug for the 3 albums of Yass Valley related songs sort of published over the years. So another thing to talk about it a bit. So my daughter turns 22 this year, so the same age as Lottie was, and any numbers people picked by mistake. Remember back to the first slide. She was killed on the 7th of July, not the 14th of July, which if you go back to the school roll, was actually the day after her birthday. So my hope is to take this started research, do some more visits and do some more interviews. There's a couple of relatives. The family seems to have left the region after the murder happened, but there's still people in the town that remember that it happened. And that's all I had to talk about. So all this research will eventually be published, and most of the research is linked to the song that's up on YouTube. And it's a bit of excitement for me. I ticked over 1 million people have watched the videos on my YouTube channel, which is fascinating for an old white guy doing folk music. Nice to see people are still interested in stories of songs. Stories. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
Daniel, I noticed she died on the last Bastille Day before the First World War.
I did wonder whether or not the advent of the war overshadowed
Yes.
a possible more interest in what happened.
On Wee Jasper, for those many of the people here will know already, there is an excellent concert in the cave, in Kerry's Cave, every January, followed by a contra dance in the local Jasper Hall. So if you haven't been there, it's a good place to go camping and enjoy yourself.
And Jeff Kell does a fantastic tour of the
He's a
cave.
Yes,
great
he
guy.
does.
He's a great mind too.
Yeah, I'm just, her grave not being marked, does that indicate like unconsecrated? Was there some question of sin involved with her death? Or?
This is another. So I think the family where she was working was Scottish, and she was Irish. And I don't, but the part of the cemetery is not Catholic, so I don't know. So to avenue for research.
Yeah, well, just curiosity, I know, and like when you said the parents' tombstone kicked over, are you talking about an act of vandalism, or is
I
that just
assume so,
their
because
time?
they're not white.
So, yeah,
I
so
mean, really vivid.
why that animosity towards the victim's family?
So the McBean family photos in, but the McBean headstones are 3 metre high marble, glorious. They were a very well-known family in the region.
So there's a parochial thing going on there, you reckon?
Yeah, so there would have been shame for that
Yeah.
family and blame possibly.
Is there son who killed her? Is he?
I could not find his grave in the cemetery.
Yeah.
One possibility is that Gertrude's grave was marked 110 years ago. Wooden crosses don't last that long. It's your huge granite plaque that's going to last, although, will it stay up? I mean, also headstones, depending on what stone they're made out of, they do fall over during storms and so on. So it may or may not be malicious damage.
I've been spending a bit of time in the Fulham Cemetery and visiting Cape Kelly recently. And I talked to one of the guys up there, and apparently those big headstones, they weren't pinned properly, because a lot of them are over in the Fulham Cemetery. So I think it may have
Yeah, because this
Inscriptions wear off.
So this one wasn't tall, and it's a wedge of great. It would take. I couldn't move myself. So.
Daniel, did you say they were Catholics, or
That's what I don't know.
yeah?
My-
It might be worth finding out what the other both families were.
So definitely not
Presbyterian.
Catholic for the Scottish
No,
McBeans.
no.
Possibly. So I assume Scottish because McAllister, but then I think
It's not impossible.
Irish. It's
though.
Irish
Yeah,
McAllister.
right. So that might play into it because sectarianism is still an issue of that era.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.